All right, so we're on. So we're good to go. So we'll call the November 5th, 2020 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order. Starting out, we're going to do the roll call vote, just so we know which members are here. So starting out, I'm going to go through these one by one. Gillian,
Here.
Jeff,
Here.
Frank,
Here.
Joel,
Here.
and Jonathan is here as well. So all the members are here tonight. The first item is going to be consideration of resolution 2020-226, a resolution declaring that the Board of Zoning Appeals members shall meet on November 5th, 2020 and conduct its essential business by electronic means rather than being required to gather a quorum of the members physically present in the same location because it is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Gillian. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second.
I have a second by Frank. So going through each member, Gillian,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Joel,
Aye.
and Jonathan, aye as well. So motion carries. Next, I have an announcement for limited public access. The Board of Zoning Appeals meeting will limit physical access in the meeting room due to current limitations of public gatherings to prevent further spread of COVID-19 and to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the City of Franklin officials, staff, and citizens. Accommodations have been made to ensure that the public is able to participate in the meeting. The public may participate in the following ways. It can watch the meeting on Franklin TV or the City of Franklin website. It can watch the live stream through the City of Franklin Facebook and YouTube account. The public may call in to the meeting by calling 1-312-626-6799 with a meeting ID of 988-3464-2277 with a password of 486411. I'll read that one more time on the numbers. So the number to call is 1-312-626-6799 with a meeting ID of 988-3464-2277 with a password of 486411. Callers will be unmuted and given the opportunity to comment during the meeting at specific times. Limited viewing will be available in the lobby of City Hall to watch the live video. And finally, the public may email comments to planningintake@franklintn.gov to be provided in full to the BZA and included in the minutes, but not read aloud in their entirety during the meeting. Comments were accepted until noon the day of the meeting. Next, I'll call for a motion to amend the agenda to add a new item entitled Notice of Chair Stepping Down as Chair for the Remainder of Term. Do I have a motion to add this item?
Motion to add that item.
Okay, motion made by Gillian. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second by Jeff. So going through the vote, Gillian,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Joel,
Aye.
and Jonathan, aye as well. So going to turn it over to staff. I believe, Bill, you had some comments for us.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. And I appreciate that. This item is a little bit unusual, so I just wanted to walk you through it a little. As you know, the chair has indicated that he would like to step down as chair for the remainder of the term. To be clear, the term is short. Your next voting for officers would be in January. The bylaws for the BZA, when that happens, indicate in section 4.1.5 that when this takes place, the vice chair by default serves the remainder of the chair's term. There's nothing for you all to vote on or an action to take. Really, the only question is for you, Jonathan, Mr. Langley, if you're willing to serve in that term or in that capacity until the next vote for successors takes place, or if you have any objection to serving in that role.
And I am willing to serve, so I appreciate that.
Okay. The main point of adding the item was just to have it be spread on the minutes so that there's a record of the new chair serving for the remainder of the term, and then you all can continue from there. If we could, I understand there was a letter maybe from Mr. Jones. If we could just make sure that's part of the record as well, so it goes into the minutes.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
So next we'll move on to the minutes. As a consideration of approval of the October 1st, 2020 minutes. I'll go ahead and note, I did read through those minutes. The adjourn section, I'll point this out kind of before we hit the motion. I think there's a typo in there. It should say motion was made to adjourn, and it says motion was made to close the public comment. So I'll throw that out there. Do I have a motion on approval of the minutes? You probably would want to include that revision in your motion as well.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do you want to add that amendment, Joel, the text amendment?
With the amendment, I make a motion to approve with the amendment that the meeting was adjourned instead of the public portion closed.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Jeff. So going through each member, Gillian,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Joel,
Aye.
and Jonathan, I as well. So the minutes are approved. Are there any citizen comments this time?
Staff did receive one emailed comment, and that comment has been forwarded along to the BZA members.
Any other public comment that staff is seeing at all? I'm not sure if we're still doing the phone in or if it's all through Zoom. So
So I'll ask if the caller on the line would like to unmute themselves and make a comment during public comment, you're more than welcome to do so at this time. Otherwise, we will move on to the item.
okay, so hearing nothing, do I have a motion to close the public comment? Have a motion made by Frank. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Gillian. Going through each member, Gillian,
Aye.
Jeff, you need that one more time for me, Jeff. I missed that, I think.
I'm sorry. Aye.
Okay, appreciate it. Frank,
Aye.
Joel,
Aye.
and Jonathan, I as well. So moving on to item number 1, it's a variance request to reduce the required first floor elevation height from 3 feet to 1 foot above base flood elevation for the historic structure located within the historic preservation overlay and the floodway fringe overlay at 319 North Margin Street. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The site consists of a 0.07 acre parcel zoned OR, office residential, and located within the Historic Preservation Overlay, HPO, and the Floodway Fringe Overlay, the FFO. The dwelling was built in 1935 and is a contributing structure to the Downtown Franklin Historic District. Contributing structures may be defined as those which help to reinforce the historical integrity and architectural qualities of a historic district. The Historic Zoning Commission reviews exterior alterations for properties located within the historic preservation overlay in light of the historic district design guidelines and is charged with preserving and protecting historic structures from alterations that would result in an adverse impact. The OR district primarily consists of historic residential building forms with both residential and non-residential uses. As the applicant intends to use the house as a residence, the structure must meet the floodplain requirements for residential properties. The zoning ordinance requires that residential properties located within the FFO be elevated 3 feet above base flood elevation. 1 foot above base flood elevation is the minimum elevation required by FEMA. And if the property had a non-residential use, the structure would only need to be elevated 1 foot above base flood elevation to meet the requirements of the ordinance. Variances may be issued for the repair and rehabilitation of historic structures upon a determination that the proposed work will not preclude its continued designation as a historic structure, and the variance is the minimum necessary deviation from the requirements of the ordinance in order to preserve the historic character and design of the structure. For the certificate of appropriateness application, the applicant submitted 2 photographs demonstrating the potential appearance of the building. 1, elevated to meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance at 3 feet above base flood elevation, and then a photo of the property elevated to meet the minimum required height to meet the non-residential use regulations of 1 foot above base flood elevation. The Historic Zoning Commission approved COA for the proposal at its October 12th, 2020 meeting for the building to be raised to 1 foot above base flood elevation only, as the proposal is the most sensitive to the architectural qualities of the contributing structure and presents the least amount of adverse impact to the contributing status of the historic structure and the context of the overall historic district. The Historic Zoning Commission recommends that the BZA consider the proposed variance favorably for these reasons. The variance request is to reduce the required first floor elevation height from 3 feet to 1 foot above base flood elevation for the property located at 319 North Margin Street. The building's status as a contributing property to the Franklin Historic District and the need to take measures to maintain this status amount to good and sufficient cause for granting a variance. The proposal is the most sensitive to the architectural qualities of the contributing structure and presents the least amount of adverse impact to the contributing status of the historic structure and the context of the overall historic district. The HCC recommends that the BZA consider the proposed variance favorably for these reasons. Staff finds that the property meets the first criteria for a variance. As the dwelling currently sits below base flood elevation, the applicant is proposing to elevate the entire existing structure out of the floodplain approximately 3.5 feet above the current grade in order to elevate the house 1 foot above base flood elevation. The HCC determined that raising the house 3 feet above base flood elevation would cause the building to become non-contributing to the Downtown Franklin Historic District, which is both locally designated and listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The removal of the property's contributing status would amount to exceptional hardship for the owner of the property. For these reasons, the property meets the second criterion for variance. as the minimum elevation required by FEMA and permitted by the zoning ordinance for non-residential uses is 1 foot above base flood elevation. The variance would not result in a significant increase in flood hazard that would constitute a detriment to the public good. Additionally, the Historic Zoning Commission has approved the project plans as proposed and recommends approval of the variance request to maintain the structure's contributing status and the integrity of the historic district. Based on the recommendation of the Historic Zoning Commission, along with analysis of conditions on the lot, staff finds that the property meets the 3rd criterion for variance. Based on this reasoning, staff recommends approval of the variance based on the criteria that authorize a variance to be established. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Next, we'll move to the applicant.
Hi, this is Martin Strobel. I own the adjacent property, and I apologize I didn't voice myself at the public comments, but I couldn't figure out how to unmute myself.
Yeah, so Mr.
can I
Strobel, if you could pause for us, we're going to start with the applicant, and then you'll hear, we'll pause on a second, and we'll bring you in next for public comment.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So if you'd like to go ahead, Mr. Jones, I think we've got you in the meeting as well. If you'd like to go ahead and unmute and speak on behalf of the applicant.
Well, I actually am the applicant,
Okay.
Mr. Langley. I appreciate you guys taking the time tonight to hear this. Kelly, thank you so much for the description. I think that was very encompassing of what we're looking to do with the property, that we are looking to make this a single family home. I guess, honestly, I think, like I said, Kelly kind of hit all of the points that I was going to bring up. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you all might have to try to get any clarification that you need.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Strobel, if you're on the line, if you would like to go ahead and comment as well.
Sure. My name is Martin Strobel, and I own the adjacent property at 235 3rd Avenue North, which has a dog leg that is adjacent to the 319 Margin property. In addition, the 319 Margin property, as well as the deed of the 319 Margin property, identifies an 8-foot right-of-way through their property, which is owned by me. And so there are a couple of things that have happened. We reached out to the property owner via his realtor prior to purchase to make sure he was aware of this. The realtor said that he was aware of the right-of-way and wanted to go ahead with the purchase of the property. Right after purchase on July 29th, we reached out to the owner again, trying to set up a time to discuss the right-of-way and didn't get a time. Followed up again on August 4th to get a time to discuss this issue with the property owner and still couldn't arrange a time to meet with him. So we haven't had time to talk to the property owner, and we want to have those discussions to make sure that our rights to this easement are protected. So the plan that staff reviewed does not include, to my knowledge, identification of the right-of-way on this property, and the foundation for which you are looking at to give a variance is in that right-of-way. And as we know, no structures can be built in a right-of-way. So what we want to do and what we're asking for is just a 30-day delay to your next meeting so that we can have these discussions to make sure that our rights are protected to an easement that is listed both on the deed at 319 Margin as well as the deed at 235 3rd Avenue North. The easement needs to be shown. We need to see whether or not the foundation for which you're giving a variance is in that right-of-way. And then we also need to make sure that the right-of-way is not being counted as any type of open space within that area. So all we're asking for is just a little time to sit down and discuss this to make sure that our property rights are protected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Strobel. We did, staff did distribute your comments, I believe they were emailed comments as well, so we appreciate that. Do I have a motion to close the public comment?
Motion to close the public comment.
Have a motion made by Gillian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by, I think that was going to be Jeff. Is that correct? You second that, Jeff?
Yes, I'm sorry, I did.
Oh, you're fine. So going through each member, Gillian,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Joel,
Aye.
and Jonathan, I as well. So the public comment portion of the meeting is closed. Do you have a motion on this item?
I'd like to make a motion to defer for 30 days while the applicant coordinates with the adjacent property owner.
So motion made. Do I have a second? So motion was for deferral for 30 days. It would be the next Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. And I don't know, is it exactly 30 days, staff? You may need to look at the time frame on that.
It would need to defer to the next date certain,
Yep.
Which would be December 3rd.
Then I will amend that motion to defer to the December 3rd meeting so that the property owner can coordinate with the adjacent property owner.
Okay, so we have a proper motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Joel. So going through each member on the vote, Gillian,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Can we have a discussion, Mr. Chairman?
we can. I'd like to limit it to, I mean, we do have a motion and a second, so I do feel like we need to probably continue since we're mid-vote here. Okay, so Frank.
Now,
Coach, yes.
if I could interrupt just a second, now would be the time for discussion prior to a vote.
Okay.
Mr. Jones is correct.
So even if we're kind of mid-vote here.
Yes, if Mr. Jones wants to have some discussion, what I would suggest is go ahead and have whatever discussion you're going to have and then just redo the roll call vote.
Okay. That's perfect. Sorry, Frank, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Were you aware of this right of way on this property, and is it taken into consideration at all before y'all suggested to approve?
Yes, sir, it was. The variance on the property that was being asked for has no encroachment or any variance or any intrusion, I guess, on the 8-foot right of way for the owner behind us. That piece of land will stay available for the easement that is proper. We have had our attorneys look at that and our title company do searches on that to make sure that that is a valid easement. We did know that it is a valid easement. So we are asking for a variance for the exact same structure and layout of the current home. We are not expanding that. We are not making it further, deeper, wider, any of that. We are leaving the home exactly the way that it sits. And we plan to leave that 8-foot easement in place because it is a valid easement, I believe from 1929. And so, like I said, we've discussed it with our attorneys and title company, and everyone agrees that it is a valid easement. So we have decided to leave that easement on the property when we do turn around and sell this home to the next family.
And
Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
Jones, Tell everyone that you and I are not related, even though I have an nephew named Chris Jones.
No, sir, we are not related. I'm sure many people removed, but no, it's a very popular name.
Mr. Chair, if I might clarify too,
Sure.
that this application is not expanding any footprint, as Mr. Jones indicated. The variance before you tonight is only how much higher the first floor elevation must be above the floodplain. Our zoning ordinance requires 3 feet up, and they are requesting to be at 1 foot up.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Let's go through the vote again. So I'm going to start with Gillian. So the motion was to defer to the next meeting, which I believe was December 3rd. I believe that was the motion.
Jonathan, I think that was helpful information, and it doesn't sound like we actually need to defer if all they're doing is adjusting the current footprint. So I'd like to withdraw that motion.
Mr. Chairman, so that it's obvious that the footprint is to remain the same, and I have no problem with that either.
Okay, so I think we're back at step 1, I believe. So do we have a motion? So the first motion was withdrawn. If I'm missing anything procedurally, Bill, stop me, please. Motion was withdrawn. Do I have a motion now on this item?
Yes, I move to approve the variance request to reduce the required first floor elevation height from 3 feet to 1 foot above base flood elevation for the historic structure located within the historic preservation overlay and floodway fringe overlay at 319 North Margin Street, because the criteria for granting a variance has been satisfied as described in the staff report.
I have a motion made by Jeff. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Gillian. So going through each member's vote, Gillian,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Joel,
Aye.
and Jonathan votes aye as well. So motion carries unanimously. I will note, at least for the comments by Mr. Strobel, so we're just looking at, and staff alluded to this as well, but we're only looking at the base flood elevation change. So this would still go through the Department of Building and Neighborhood Services for the review of the structure as well. So we have made it through that item. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Chairman.
Motion made by Jeff. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Frank. So going through each member, Gillian,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Joel,
Aye.
and Jonathan. Aye as well. So thanks, everybody.